Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, my students? I hope that you're happy and healthy and ready for today's lesson, which will be speaking. But before we do that, let's revise what we took previously in our reading lesson. If you remember that I explained to you the jigsaw reading, just like the puzzle here. The jigsaw reading, when you read just part of the article and your friend reads the second part and his friend reads the third part, and so once you read them and understand them, you exchange the information, exchange what you understood, so that by the end, everyone will understand the whole article. We took the crime puzzles article. Of course, all of this unit is crime themed. The theme of this unit, this whole unit is about crime, criminals, law, etc. If you remember the first one, we took the case of the stolen jewels with Detective Combs. Once he saw the glass outside, the broken glass outside the shop, he knew that the owner of the shop was lying about the jewels being stolen. And the second one, the case of the bowling alley, when he left his phone intentionally in the bowling alley and asked the criminal to bring it. Once he knew which bowling alley it was, the Mr. Combs immediately knew that he was the culprit. Then we took the answers here. Of course, we knew how did Mr. Combs solve each puzzle. Of course, crimes are puzzles. So these answers show us how did Mr. Combs or Detective Combs solved each puzzle. So let's open our workbook on pages 96. Complete the newspaper article with the simple past, past perfect, or past perfect progressive. The missing bag. This is the title of the article. So here we have a few gaps. So we have to fill each gap with the simple past or past perfect or the past perfect progressive. So let's read it together. The missing bag, Trenton, New Jersey. Last Saturday, Mrs. Judy Bobson called, the first one is done for you, the police to report that her bag had been stolen. Earlier that morning, she to the bank to take out money. And the verb is go. So what did she do? Very good. She had gone to the bank to take out the money and go shopping. Her grandson graduated from high school and she decided to buy him a new laptop for college. So number 2, the verb graduate, in which form should we put it? Yes, that's correct. Had graduated from high school and she, very good, she had decided to buy him a new laptop from college. All of these are past perfect. She checked the prices. She checked prices on the internet. Very good. She had checked prices on the internet and found out that a large electronic goods retailer offer a 30% discount on all computers. The verb offer here. Very good. Had been offering past perfect progressive. Had been offering a 30% discount on all computers. She asked her brother to drive her there, but he couldn't leave work. The verb ask here, in what form should we put it? Very good. She had asked her brother to drive her there, but he couldn't leave work. So she put the money in her bag and leave home in a hurry. Yes, that's correct. She had put the money in her bag and, excellent, had left home in a hurry. Someone at the bank tell her that a lot of people go to the store over the last 3 days. So number 9, yes, had told her that a lot of people, very good, had been going to the store over the last 3 days. To find, she decided to take the bus. So, very good, she had decided to take the bus, but changed her mind and took a taxi. She changed her mind, excellent, and took a taxi. When they, and the verb get to the store. When they, very good, got to the store, she paid the fare. The fare, it means the money that she owes to the taxi. She paid the fare with some bills that she put in her coat pocket. So the verb put here, very good. She had put in her coat pocket. Get out and enter the store. Very good. Got out and enter the store. So again, from the beginning, she paid the fare with some bills that she had put in her coat pocket, got out and entered the store. A very nice sales assistant show her new laptops from some time. So the verb show here, yes, had been showing her new laptops from some time when she not have her bag. When she, the verb realize, yes, when she realized that she not, which means it's a negative with the verb have in her bag. Yes, she didn't have or did not have her bag. She was sure someone, and the verb steal, it was she was sure someone steal it while she was looking at laptops. So the verb steal here, yes, that's correct. She was sure someone had stolen it while she was looking at laptops. She, and the verb ask here, very good. She asked the store security to lock down the doors and search all the shoppers there. The shop manager tried to calm her down. Yes, that's correct. Tried to calm her down and get her to think about where she might have left her bag. But she wouldn't listen. So the shop manager tried to calm her down and make her remember where she left her bag. But she didn't listen. She asked him to close the shop and search all the shoppers for her bag. But she wouldn't listen. All of a sudden, a man walked in holding Mrs. Bobson's bag. She leave in the time taxi. She leave it in the time taxi. So, of course, she had left it in the taxi. She had left it in the taxi. So she forgot her bag in the taxi, and this was the whole story. So now we will be reading two stories, then answering a question about them. Again, we'll read the two stories, then answer the questions. America's dumbest criminals. Again, we'll be reading about foolish or dumb criminals, as the article suggests here. America's dumbest criminals in the workbook, page 97. So open your workbook, page 97, and look at these articles. America's dumbest criminals. So this is the first story which happened in California, USA. Let's listen together.
California, USA. A man, who was in serious financial trouble after having been fired because of inadequate reading and writing skills, decided that robbing a bank would be the solution to all of his problems. He chose the Bank of America in downtown San Francisco as his target. He was walking into the branch when he realized he had not written his stick-up note. He decided to go through with it anyway and got a deposit slip from the bank and wrote his note, "This is a stick-up. Put all your money in this bag." While standing in line to give his note to the teller, he began to worry that someone had seen him write the note and might call the police. He decided to leave the Bank of America and try another bank. He crossed the street to the Wells Fargo Bank. After waiting a few minutes in line, he handed his note to the Wells Fargo teller. The teller read the note and, judging from the spelling errors, realized that the robber was not very bright. He told him that he could not accept his stick-up note since it had been written on a Bank of America deposit slip. He explained that he could only accept the note if it were written on a Wells Fargo slip and that he would either have to fill in one of their slips or go back to the Bank of America. Looking somewhat confused, but taking the teller's word for it, the man decided to leave the bank. The Wells Fargo teller then called the police, who arrested the man a few minutes later while he was waiting in line back at the Bank of America.
So, as the title suggests, the dumbest people here, this is a foolish criminal. He was at the Bank of America. He wants to steal the bank there, to rob the bank. What did he do? Of course, he doesn't know how to read or to write, just a little bit. So he took a note from the floor in the Bank of America, and he wrote a threatening message. What did he write? This is, with the letters IZ, this is a stick up. So you can notice here he made a mistake. He doesn't know how to write. This is a stick up. Put all your money in this bag. Money using the letter U. The word money is written in the wrong way. Of course, it's M-O-N-E-Y. He wrote it M-U-N-Y. So he wrote this, but because he thought then that someone saw him writing this threatening letter, so he decided to go to another bank just across the road, the Fargo Bank. Of course, the teller there was smart, was clever, was quick-witted. Once he arrived to the teller and gave him the note to threaten him, he said, "We don't accept this paper because it's from the Bank of America. If it's from here, it's okay. We will accept it. But since it's not from our bank, please go to the Bank of America and rob the bank there." So confused, he was confused, of course. He believed him and went there. And then the teller called the police, and they arrest him at the Bank of America while he was standing in line to give the teller there the threatening note. Of course, the criminal here is extremely dumb and foolish. So let's listen to the other story which happened in Colorado, USA. Let's listen together.
Colorado, USA. A man walked into a corner store in Colorado Springs with a gun and demanded all of the cash from the cash register. After the cashier had put the cash in a bag, the robber saw a pack of cigarettes that he wanted behind the counter on the shelf. He told the cashier to put it in the bag along with the cash. The cashier refused, saying that the man wasn't over 21. The robber insisted that he was in fact older than 21, but the cashier stood his ground and refused to give it to him unless he showed official identification stating his age. The robber took his driver's license out of his wallet and gave it to the cashier. After a couple of minutes, the clerk agreed that the man was indeed over 21 and put the pack of cigarettes in the bag. As the robber ran from the store, the cashier immediately called the police and gave the name and address he had seen on the license. The police arrested the robber 2 hours later while he was sitting in his living room smoking a cigarette.
So again, this is another dumb criminal. He went to a shop. He wanted to rob the shop, and he said to the cashier, "Give me all your money and a pack of cigarettes." A pack of cigarettes. The clever cashier here said, "I can't give you a cigarette because you're not over 21. I will give it to you if you prove to me that you are over 21. So the criminal argued with him. He tried to prove to him that he's over 21. What did he do? He took out his wallet and showed him his driver's license. Of course, in the driver's license, all of your information is there, your name, your age, even your address. So then the cashier said to him, "Okay, now I believe you. You can take the money and the cigarette." Once he went outside, the cashier immediately called the police and gave them the address, which when they stormed there, they broke into his house, they found all the money and him sitting and smoking a cigarette. Of course, maybe he was confused when he showed him the driver's license, but we all agree that it was a dumb move, a stupid move from him. So, story 1 and story 2. The first, let's take story 1. What did the robber do wrong? What did the robber do wrong? Yes, he made mistakes on his stick-up note. Of course, all of the act is wrong, but when we want to be specific, he made mistakes on his stick-up note, he didn't know how to write well, so he made some mistakes, which indicates, if you read this note, which indicates, it will give you signs that this man is not so bright, not so clever, not so smart. So, what would be a good name for the story? The first story, if you want to come up with a good name for the story, of course, there's no right or wrong answer, but if you want to come up with a good name, a good title for the story, the man who moved back and forth from these banks, for me, I chose It Pays to Be Able to Read and Write. It pays to be able to read and write. If you're able to read and write, good things will happen to you. If he knew how to write, maybe the teller wouldn't figure out that he was dumb. Do you feel sorry for these criminals, and why? Do you feel sorry for him, the one who wanted to rob the banks? It's up to you. Of course, no. Of course, he shouldn't have tried to rob the bank. Do we feel sorry for him? No, he shouldn't have tried to rob the bank. You shouldn't feel sorry for anyone who's trying to rob any bank. The second story, what did the robber do wrong? The second story, the robber with the driver's license. What did he do wrong here? He showed the cashier his driver's license. He showed the cashier a little piece of paper with all his information, which was a big mistake. He showed the cashier his driver's license. What would be a good name for the story? The one with the license and the money and the cigarettes. What would be a good title for this story? What would be a good name for the story? I came up with Old Enough, but Not Smart Enough, because he wanted to show him the license to prove that he's over 21, that he's old enough to smoke cigarettes, but of course he's not smart enough. So this would be a good title, Old Enough, but Not Smart Enough. Of course, you can come up with your own idea. Do you feel sorry for these criminals, or why? No, he shouldn't have tried to rob the store. Of course, we don't feel sorry for anyone who's trying to rob any place. Reorder these sentences to create the story of a silly burglary, then answer the questions. Here we have 9 or 10 sentences. We will try to organize them, or let's say reorganize them, to make a correct chronologically story. So the first one, he was wearing a jacket that belonged to the man of the house, and his pockets were full of jewelry and candies that he had taken. Of course, we know that this is not a beginning of any story. The second sentence, outside the house, a bag was found with more items that had been stolen from the house. The third sentence, when the police came, they found the burglar asleep on the couch. The fourth sentence, when he was interviewed by the police, he claimed that he had bought the candies, but eventually admitted to having taken them from the house. The next sentence, at the time the burglar had just been released from a 2-year prison sentence for burglary. Next, the owners of the house had locked all the doors and windows before going to sleep the night before. The next sentence, but when they woke up early the next morning, they heard noises coming from the living room. The next sentence, instead of checking the living room, they tiptoed into the kitchen and called the police. Here the word tiptoed. What's the meaning of tiptoeing? Tiptoeing. It means that you're walking on the tip of your toes, on your feet, which means or indicates that you are trying to walk very quietly. It's like when walking with someone is sleeping, you tiptoe so you don't wake him up. Next sentence, on his way to the petrol car, the burglar apologized to the owners for falling asleep on their couch. The last sentence, he explained that he had been playing basketball all day and had got very tired. So now we have read all the sentences Can you tell me which is the first one? Which one do you see is the beginning for the story? Okay, so this is the first one. At the time, the burglar had just been released from a 2-year prison sentence, burglary. Very good. What about the second one? How do we continue the story? How do we continue the story? This is the second one. The owners of the house had locked all the doors and windows before going to sleep the night before. So when he got out of prison, the owners of the house had locked the doors and the windows. So where's number 3 now? What's the third sentence? Very good. But when they woke up early in the next morning, they heard noises coming from the living room. They heard noises coming from the living room. What about number 4? Yes. So instead of checking the living room, they tiptoed into the kitchen and called the police. They woke up early in the morning. They heard some noises in the living room. So they tiptoed to the kitchen and called the police. Very good. What about number 5? Yes. When the police came, they found the burglar asleep on the couch. It was morning. When they came, they saw the burglar sleep on the couch. The 6th sentence. Yes, he was wearing a jacket that belonged to the man of the house, and his pockets were full of jewelry and candies that he had taken. Very good. Number 7. Let's continue. Excellent. When he was interviewed by the police, of course they caught him, and when he was interviewed by the police, he claimed that he had bought the candies. He claimed that the candies were his. He bought the candies, but eventually admitted to having taken them from the house. So he was just talking about the candies, not about the jewelries. Number 8 here, outside the house, a bag was found with more items that had been stolen from the house. So he was stealing before putting the items in the bag and throw it outside the house. Let's continue. Let's continue with number 9 here. On his way to the patrol car, so the police took him and they wanted to put him in the car. The burglar apologized to the owners for falling asleep on their couch. So he was apologizing just for falling asleep, not apologizing for stealing from them. And he stole candies too. And the last one here, he explained that he had been playing basketball all day and got very tired. He said, I slept on your couch because I was very tired. I had been playing basketball all day. So this is good work. We have organized all the sentences here. And remember, we are at workbook page 98. So this is a quick question for you. What would you have done if you find a burglar asleep in your living room? If you woke up in the morning and went to the living room and you saw a burglar sleep here, what would you do? For me, I would give you just one answer. I would have left the house and called the police. I would have left the house and locked the door, of course, and I would have called the police. Of course, you can answer whatever you want, but this is, for me, this is the safest approach. So let's begin our speaking lesson today. The objective is to talk about the characteristics of a good detective. The characteristics of a good detective. So we will be answering what makes a good detective. Talk about the characteristics of a good detective. Work in pairs or groups so you can discuss it with your friend. What makes a good detective? What should he be? So write your ideas in the organizer below. Use the organizer to discuss in groups or in class. Crimes that a detective investigates. Many crimes, you can say kidnapping, murder, burglary, theft. Any crime, of course, the detective will come and investigate. The characteristics needed to solve crimes. Of course, you have to be patient. You'd have to be patient and wait for the answer to come. Well-educated. You have to be well-educated so you wouldn't miss any information. You would have to be smart, aware of his surroundings. So you have to be aware of the things that are happening around you. And of course, you have to be courageous and brave. Do I have these characteristics? Of course, each one will answer to his own opinion or view of himself. And with that, we reach to the end of the lesson. Thank you for listening. See you next lesson, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.